It will
Uh-oh.
work.
All right. Well, before we continue, let me interrupt here. Don't go away. Good morning, good afternoon for some of you. We are officially on the Diesel Drivability Roundtable. Hopefully, we'll get more people join in. But those of you that are going to watch the recording, sorry you couldn't make it, but hopefully, if you got any questions, always click on the comment page there once I upload it there to YouTube. We got Mr. Lee here. We got Mr. James. We're going to be talking a little bit about everything. So therefore, we're going to have Lee start off. But here's the deal: we've been getting some. I guess the need for training has been tapered down. I was talking to Mr. Wilson there, and I know that times might be changing. I don't think shops are slow. A lot of the shops. I just had two meetings yesterday, talking to a few shop owners, two shop owners, and they were busy. So therefore, yeah, we're busy here too as well. I'm trying to knock out some things I got to knock out, but you know, I guess my plug in here is, I sponsor these roundtables, and with the help, free time of Mr. Lee, Mr. James, please note that we encourage your support for training. So therefore, that's one of our bread and butters. That's what we also live. But we try to help you out. So that's why we're talking technical here. So if you have any input, click on the chat window, or if you want to unmute your microphone, you're welcome to do that too. So therefore, we'll definitely talk about that. So with that, what's going on in the diesel world? Well, the usual fixes, I get the Power Stroke 6.0 calls, the Duramax calls. Most of them this month have been pretty easy phone calls that I've been getting, so thank God. But the D rate does not stop. You're still getting jobs where we're putting the DEF fluid in the diesel, same stuff too as well. So but the newer trucks are being released now. We're going to see what headaches they will give us as time moves ahead. So therefore, that's it. Mr. Lee, Mr. James, if you'd like to kick in any information, this is just a roundtable. Anything you'd like to add about what's going on in your world?
Well, I'll jump in on this scenario that I got going started last week, Tony, with this 6.7.
All right,
I
well,
got it.
have you take lead.
I, I got a call from a Ford dealer, and uh my my tech that I'd worked with previously, he sent me a video that I sent you, Tony, and what the guy was doing, he was talking with his buddy in the bay next to him. He says, "Come here and look at this." And as he slowly unscrewed the oil fill cap, it literally went vertical up into the hood. Boom. And the original issue is he had done multiple turbos on this thing, but he had not diagnosed it. And I got to digging around for a TSB, and I says, "Have you looked at the CCV filter on that valve cover? Because that is notorious. Ford has changed connectors. Ford has changed it to its replaceable, not replaceable, a filter inside, not a filter inside. It was all kinds of crazy things going on with this. But what they found is that thing was restricted. And of course, it was trying to find an escape route, and it found it through these multiple turbos that they had done. It just blew out the seal on it. So, in digging around with this, I got the digging around and found the TSB where you can validate the crankcase pressure on this engine. And come to find out, that was 22 dash 2286, I think it is. But Ford gave you a spec pressure of 1 psi, which is minimal. And what you can typically attribute a lot of that to is just the sheer fact of maintenance, because there is no spec on replacing or inspecting or whatever and servicing that CCV filter over on the driver's side valve cover. And if it gets restricted, because it's basically an oil separator, you end up with some kind of crankcase pressure. And the other thing that goes along with that, Tony, is and James, the oil pan issues that's been notorious with that 6.7, the original 11 to like about, I don't know, 14-ish or so, they had an O-ring on the lower oil pan. And then the 14 and up, they went with just a tube of silicone. And if you compound that and continue that massive crankcase pressure at that kind of velocity that sent that oil cap off, you're going to end up with a leak somewhere at some point in time. And it's back to maintenance once again that we beat up all the time, Tony. Change the oil and look for that kind of stuff. But that, in essence, and for everybody that's here today on this diesel roundtable that Tony has sponsored, feel free to reach out to him on that TSB. But it's pretty interesting. And it talks about maintenance. It talks about the silicone on the pan. It talks about multiple turbo failures. It's a pretty comprehensive TSB, and it gives you some direction on what to do, where to go, and how to figure it out.
One of
And
the
I
key
thought it was
things,
great stuff.
yeah, one of the things that's aggravated me is and I've said it before this on our previous roundtables, has been that why we have accepted a lot of blow by, so blow by, no matter how good that crankcase filter might be, there is going to be some excessive blow by that's going to send droplets of oil down into the after treatment and cause premature DPF loading. So,
Yeah. And it'll take out those turbo seals, Tony, and then where's the oil going? Right down to the after treatment system, just like you described.
There's another TSB with the same issue, and it is over increased oil consumption.
Yes. Yep. Same deal. Yep. And
So,
that TSB is 22-2248.
okay.
You can probably search it. It's out and around there. It's been superseded twice for oil.
The other TSB is 192142.
There you go.
and you all can pull up those TSBs off of your service information website there. So,
Correct.
You
but
type in TSB number.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Type in the TSB number, Tony.
That one that I just had, Jim?
No, the one he said.
Yeah, type it in.
Right. 22-2248.
I can't go chase it down because I'm hosting that slide you're looking at, so I can't move out of here. So you guys can do that. So, but yeah, I mean, so let's talk about, like you were talking about, Lee, about the causes here. So
It, and it's multiple causes, Tony. A lot of it, like I said, I attribute it to maintenance. We've talked about those 8, 9, 10,000 mile oil changes. You're absolutely crazy if you go to that type of mileage with an oil change, with the amount of heat that these engines are generating, and just even the synthetic stuff. You gotta change the oil on this thing, and there's no service point on that CCV. So if it's replaceable, pop that lid, get some more money on your service point, and do the customer a favor by replacing that filter. Granted, I think it's $150, $200, but look at it from the aspect of possibly saving the engine from an oil leak or something like that, or a turbo failure. It's well worth the time, and you're doing your customer justice with that.
yeah, most definitely. So what we're trying to get across, guys, is that we got to be servicing those CCV filters, but we also got to go to the root main cause of crankcase pressure. And the
Correct.
root main cause is obviously blow by, and that's crankcase pressure. So in this case, how do we reduce that crankcase pressure? Is again the maintenance factor. In other words, you get that carbon accumulation around the piston rings or the lens. So therefore, that's a never-ending story. So that kind of reiterates that. Now, the spec that's on that bulletin is what was it, 27 inches, was it, my friend, that we just discussed?
Yep. And 1 PSI. Yep.
So therefore, 1 PSI, 27 inches. So like I just told both Lee and James, for those of you who didn't hear it, 27 inches, that's a heck of a lot, 1 PSI of inches of water. So if you want to compare that, like I said, I have the LB7 Duramax memorized, and their spec is 16 inches of water pressure at 3,000 RPM. So if you have 27 inches or 1 PSI at idle, that's the spec that's an idle spec, correctly?
Yep.
What is
Yes,
the
sir.
crankcase pressure when the engine's under a load? Let's say it's pulling a 10, 15, whatever, 20,000 pound trailer. What is the blow by now?
Is a bunch.
It is a whole hell of a lot. So as I see technicians, and you guys kick in if you want, but as I see technicians replace, for example, turbos, like you just mentioned, or you do oil pans, right? And you keep having those leaks, those oil leaks, it goes back to what's going on with the crankcase. To me, it's 1, 2, 3. And what I mean by 1, 2, 3 is you got a lot of crankcase pressure. The sad fact is some of these engines could have, from my experience, have less than 75,000 miles on them,
Yep.
and we're talking about low mileage. I don't know the hours, unless it's got like a 550 or a bigger truck that can have PTOs and so on.
Right.
So with that said, the maintenance has to go small. The window has to go shorter and shorter. In other words, not 10,000 miles. And I've been screaming 5,000 or 4,000 miles. But if that engine does see a lot of hours, and we've been talking about that too in the past, about the excessive crankcase pressure, because let me tell you how many 6, 7 engines are being done out there. A whole bunch.
A bunch.
But even if you do the engine and you still maintain that same maintenance schedule, changing oil whenever, it's like, so yeah, I had a customer back in December that brought me a flatbed 550, and we fixed a lot of leaks he had on it, including his hydro boost was leaking and so on. We fixed all the leaks, but he was complaining he still had an oil leak. I said, I can't do nothing about these oil leaks. I'll go ahead and do a pan, but that's going to be major money for you. But the
Right.
problem is you got a lot of blow by. There's nothing, you're going to leak again. I'm sorry, but you're going to leak again. I mean, am I okay in saying that? Yeah, because of the fact of the excessive blow by. And the sad thing is the truck runs pretty damn good because it's still boosting, obviously. So therefore, it's running pretty good. But overall, it's going to have an oil leak. That's the bottom line. So when I hear guys saying, "Well, I continuously have oil leaks," um, where's your blow by? So,
Yep.
so there you go.
The two are connected.
Yes, sir. They're very connected. So yeah, anybody have any input on that? Let me know. Do you see a lot of 6, 7 power strokes with excessive blow by? You should, because not everybody's maintaining the same way. So now don't get me wrong. I do have, and the way I prove my case, because that's the way I've always been, is I need to back up what I say, is that do I have customers, do I have people I know that they beautiful about maintaining their trucks? They change that all over to 4 to 5,000. Yeah, 180,000 miles on one that I can think of right now and minimal blow by. So in this case, that kind of sells the point that engine oil is the key here for that. So, and remember, engine oil does not get worn out. It gets overloaded, so therefore we understand. You heard Lee talk about synthetic oil. I mean, synthetic oil is great, but the problem is, does it live well in a high blow by environment? No, it's going to actually lose its lubrication package faster than multi-grade oil. We've proven that in the past. So therefore, that's a sad fact about using synthetic oil. So what do you guys think? Mr. Lee or Mr. James, what do you think?
You're correct.
Yep. Good points, Tony. Great points.
Yeah.
Well,
So
let me put it this way. We're having the same problem with gasoline engines where the PCV valve is in the valve cover itself on some of the cars. So to fix oil consumption and this kind of problem, you're going to have to replace the whole valve cover on those particular things. So same issue, just people aren't changing oil like they should.
but then again, you look at gasoline, like heck, my girlfriend's Lexus, she had the 580 with the 5.7 in it. Every 10,000 mile oil change intervals, just like we see with the diesels that we have. So, and then when Cummins Ram calls for 15,000 mile change intervals, like Jesus, like no. So therefore, I don't know why the manufacturer, I think it's an emission thing, an oil waste thing. I'm not sure, but why are they calling for such extended?
That's standard duty though, Tony. That's standard duty service. And if you live in the Midwest, there is no such thing as standard duty. You're always in severe service. There's never, we had like 10 degrees the other day, and now we're going to be at 65 today. That's severe service, bud.
So I didn't change the temperatures there. That's another thing. Very good. Thank you. Yes. So there you go. So guys, obviously please understand that we need to educate the customer. Like I've been saying, because people say, well, my customer, well, you got to educate them. You're like, this is the price of a motor and this is the price for maintenance. Which one do you want? So something to keep in mind. All righty. What do you guys think? Any comments? Let us know about your shared experiences. We'd like to hear from you there too. So now a quick note here, and you guys don't go away because I'm going to show this. we've been talking about the 3-liter Duramax that's on the Chevy Silverado pickups, the LM2, now the LZO. Please note that we are seeing that this guy, this big fat canister guy right there. Does my cursor show? I hope it shows.
Yep.
In this case, that is what we call the SCR on F. So that's the SCR catalyst with your particulate filter all in one. So there's going to be a flange right here at number 5 that goes to your EGR cooler. So therefore, those gases going to the EGR are going to be already filtered. Well, this is all fine and dandy. But the problem is, if, like I've been saying before, if you have excessive blow-by, if you have oil consumption, if you got anything that's contaminated, that exhaust, what's it going to bombard this guy with? You know, no. So therefore, we're going to have issues there. So again and again and again, like you were saying earlier, Lee, too, as well, is the guys will do turbos, but never bother to look at everything else. So please note, in diagnostic training, I've always said is try to figure out what took the component out. You know, so therefore, if you are doing turbo, what might have taken that turbo out? Maybe wear and tear, maybe lack of lube, but maybe also, like you were saying, Lee, was excess, crankcase pressure. So in this case, note that, because what are the costs here? This is all very expensive, isn't it? So in this case, if we see failure of this particulate filter, in other words, SCR on F, we're going to start chucking stuff into the EGR cooler as well. So, and if you've
Look,
been watching guys doing their posts on the repairs for the 3-liters, this is all cab off stuff. A lot of this stuff. I mean, this exhaust system is reasonably easy to get to, but when it comes to engine issues, such as injection pump, that oil belt that you're supposed to do every 150,000 miles and all that, it's pretty much all cab off stuff. So if you're not a cab off guy, you're going to have to become a cab off guy when it comes to these trucks themselves. So,
Tony,
this is interesting. You see that number 5 port, you said your EGR inlet. Go back in time in all the earlier vehicles, that EGR inlet, was typically just off the downpipe or on the exhaust manifold or something. And now they're running it through a cleaner before it goes to the EGR cooler. I wonder if they were just trying to fix past history. That's kind of interesting.
but again, that's all fine and dandy. I don't have a problem with that because that reduces carbon accumulation on the EGR. I agree.
Right.
However, though, this is under the assumption that this engine is running at optimum levels.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's the point I'm trying to make. So,
Yep.
Matthew, yes, Matthew, how are you, buddy?
doing good, and yourself?
All righty.
So, to this point you're describing, and also back to the previous point on the 6.7, this oil consumption issue, which apparently on this 3-liter is actually becoming a known problem from the get-go. I'm reading different places, not that I have customers that have, but that GM is, even at the factory, overfilling these engines a bit, and there's some expected oil usage. So what is the impact going to be on that based upon what what you're already describing? Right. And the second thing is, I just had a customer, you were talking about the maintenance of the CCV valve on the 6.7, asked me if there's any written information on the Ford 6.7 as to when that filter is to be serviced. Is there an article somewhere that talks about the interval itself outside of checking this back pressure
Matt,
we're talking about?
I'm going to say possibly yes. Let me dig through some TSBs and get them to Tony, but it's to me, it should be part of the maintenance schedule itself, but it's not. I think it is on the 650, 750. They want you to look at it or at least inspect it every 50 to 75,000 miles. Well, if you got Tony's scenario, that tote buddy of his that he's fixing all those trucks and a lot of idle time, I'd be looking at it a whole lot sooner.
But remember,
Right.
that's one of the, but hold on, that, if I may interrupt. But that bulletin is giving us a spec for crankcase pressure. So if that pressure, because I haven't read thoroughly that bulletin, I'll be honest, I haven't read it. So that bulletin is kind of dictating that one of the first things you got to do is replace the filter, correct, Mr. Lee?
Yep.
So did you get those bulletin numbers? Are on the chat? James put them up there for you, Matthew.
Very good.
And while Tony's
enough.
talking, I'll see if I can dig around and get you an answer, Matt.
Very good. One other thing I'll quick say about that CCV filter business. I had a customer here that I think I talked about last year on some of the forums. I was fighting with an ambulance, continued to have regen problems or whatever, and that customer eventually decided they're going to just ultimately take care of it. But there still was some blow by with that thing. And we had put a new CCV filter on it last spring, but it was seeping some oil. So I said to the customer, I think there's blow by going on here, and I did some investigation. As we know, there are companies out there that are putting vented to atmosphere, which is obviously not mission compliant, on the CCV filter, but they also are making a replacement one that is doing the same thing with the keeping it vented back into the engine, keeping it compliant with their own replaceable screen. So just of note, there is something out there like that.
Okay.
Aftermarket ingenuity. I love it. Make it better.
Make it better, yes. Because we got a lot of guys cutting open the factory one, so I know.
Oh yeah. Because it looks like a 7.3 oil filter. I mean, a 7.3 fuel filter is all that thing is. Maybe 2 inches hot, about the size of a baseball that sits in that black box.
I don't know.
That's the replaceable version.
Okay. All righty. But again, the source, the maintenance. So, but Matthew, like they were, you were saying earlier, or they were saying earlier, was severe duty. Like even James was saying, what is severe duty? Change in weather, change in temperature, loads and speeds, and so on. So there's too many factors to keep that in mind. That's why you got to love a Ram Cummins. It's got that pressure sensor on the valve cover to monitor that, and it tells you when you need to change it. But we got to use a little common sense here by just observing, or measuring. You now have a spec, but we're measuring the crankcase spec. But in this case, it all depends how it's driven. So when a truck comes in, I don't know what it's been through. So therefore, has it seen a lot of idle time? Does it run, like I said earlier, running a PTO? Does it do a lot of highway? What? Is it a hotshot driver? What? So there's too many variables, in my opinion, involved. So it would have to have some logic to know when that CCV filter. But if you can take a basic measurement of crankcase pressure, that's a good telltale. But again, the maintenance, we go back to that. So, and guys, I just don't get it. I just don't get it because, like, why are we so hesitant about changing that oil? It's like, you were saying something, Mr. Wilson?
It's just basic maintenance. And the fact is, how many guys ever check the PCV valve on their own cars on a gasoline engine, much less a diesel? How many anymore?
Nobody does. It used to be a basic, like that Chevy 350 I'm working on. That used to be like a tune-up item, So.
Well, yeah, it is. I just replaced the filter, the PCV valve on my Dodge I've got, and people just ask me why I was doing it. And I go, because it's not working correctly, and I'm going to replace it. But I had to tear up half part of the engine to get it out, so whatever.
Yeah, my G3.6, that is not fun to get to on that passenger side valve cover. So it's like, I've done them already, but they're no fun to get to. But that again causes oil consumption as well. And that's going to be a big issue for the gasoline side too, guys, because like we already saw, they're coming out with particulate filters now. So you can imagine that scenario, how that's going to be too as well. So again, we need to. So if I may say though, as I train shops, because I trained 2 shops in this last month in January, and I got to tell you, it's amazing how technicians are so, they got that tunnel vision because if the truck comes in, let's say for crank no start, they're focused on fueling, they're focused on maybe possibly sensor, but what happens is that they don't look at the whole picture, what else is going on or what could be affected by that drivability. So therefore, you got to understand, okay, I fixed this injector or I fixed this turbo or whatever it was, or I ran a regeneration. What took it out or what prematurely clogged it? what caused turbo failure. All this is very important to keep in mind. So we always want to be mindful of what caused the failure. Every diagnostic chart I've been talking about in the past has mentioned that. We have to make it a point to say, hey, I did fix the truck. However, is it going to happen again? And that's what you need to pay attention to. So, agree? Yes, no, or we don't agree? Well, let me know. There's your SER on F, by the way. If you haven't seen the YouTube, there's YouTube stuff out there. So therefore, I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh God, how expensive is this? But the other thing we got to keep in mind is, again, the exhaust integrity. I call it exhaust integrity. How clean, it sounds stupid to say that, but how clean is that exhaust? Is it highly contaminated, with oil droplets and other contaminants? And then if the customer is using oil additives and fuel additives that are not approved or high sulfur content in it, that's going to be another thing to keep in mind. So
You're kidding me. That thing goes on a curve pattern out.
that's on a TDI Audi. Yes, that's a TDI Audi you're looking at right there. So
Well, I've seen those. That's still stupid, but okay.
but that's the way it is, So the 3-liter Duramax is the first domestic light duty truck to have this kind of setup there. So, and the thing is, it's so hot that they're even running a liquid coolant cooled def injector or reductant injector, as you can see right there. So we're cooling it by coolant there too as well. So if you've been seeing the aftermarket bus market, especially on the buses, we have already seen coolant pressure being pressurized by the DEF fluid pressure. So in other words, we're now seeing DEF fluid in the coolant. And who was the culprit? The injectors, where those two mixed together. So in that hostile environment that injector is at, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. So could you imagine that DEF fluid goes at 72 psi and you pressurize your cooling system to 72 psi? So there you go. There's actually videos out there on that if you haven't seen it. So it's just squirting out of the radiator cap, all that pressure. So there you go. Gotta love these emission controls. I just love them there. So, all right. A
Tony,
quick, go ahead, Matthew. I'm listening, buddy. Go ahead. Matthew, did we lose you? Matthew? I guess we lost Matthew. Kick back in if you're there, Matthew. We lost you.
sorry. Am I here now?
Yeah, now I hear you.
So we had one of these LM2s, a 2021 model, in here last fall, and we had a few things we ended up doing to the vehicle. Had some maintenance problems, etc., and ended up sending it to the dealer at 74,000 miles for one of those catalysts you're talking about, to have it to get rid of NOx reduction problems. But one other thing that's actually factoring in on this thing too is the stop start technology. That vehicle has that start shut off the stop sign type thing. And what impact is that going to have on that this as well? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's no bueno. You got to you got to first initially build up the rail pressure, then you fire it up, get the oil lubricated again. And if that oil is worn out, if it's excessively diluted, yeah. So, because to get it fired up, we got to fuel it, don't we? So every startup is mega fuel. So stay tuned, I guess. There you go.
Exactly.
All right, real quickly, I wanted to show this. Both James and I, we do some contract work for ATEC, and I guess our boss over there sent us a top guru by Top Done, and just thought I'd share that with you. They know they're not paying me money to say this, but if I see something that works pretty good, I like it. So it actually is an app you put on your phone, so therefore you put it on your phone. And it works with a little Bluetooth. I don't have it with me right now, but there's a Bluetooth adapter that goes in the diagnostic link connector. So it's all. And the one thing I will tell you is my frustrating point is, sometimes I go real quickly to go look at a vehicle. And the problem is I got to carry my big Snap-on or my laptop with me. It's kind of cumbersome. There it is. He's got it right there. And in this case, what happens is that most of I call them auto parts special little scan handhelds, We have them, and the reason why we have them is because it's a quick way to clear the codes. You don't have to start a whole new session and do the whole startup, right? Because that's my biggest critique about laptop-based programs or scan tools is that they take forever to boot up. You're playing with Windows and so on. Yeah, there he is. Which one's that one though?
That's an OBD Link MX. Works really
Very
nice.
good. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that, I just have you been using those just to observe monitors or just to actually just clear codes. So when they sent me this one, it took me a while to open the box because I was busy with other stuff. And finally one day I decided to open the box and I called James on it, say, hey, what do you think of it? Well, I was rather impressed with it because one of the things I saw as I'm going to play this is the main screen. You start off on diagnostics, and I used it on my Toyota Tundra and on my 6.0 Ford and 6.0 and 6.4 Ford, but you're going to see the array of different vehicles that you have some proprietary tests there, you know? So therefore, there's all these different makes there that you're going to see. Pretty impressive and, for some of the more manufacturer specific tasks that you can do with a scan tool. So it's pretty good. Now, at that point, I select obviously if it's an automatic or manual, but then it's going to do a VIN identification. So I did this one on the on my 6 liter. So in this case, it's going to decode the VIN right there, and there you could see the it's a 6 liter right there. So that's all basic. I get it, but in this case, let me go to the next slide here and let me mute the sound because I did have some sound background on this. You're going to notice that you can select which module. So this is where it's different from a handheld. Okay. So you can actually view which module you want to look at. So just like a regular scan tool. But again, this is an under $100 scan tool I'm showing you here. So this is not working off your app, off of your phone right here. So, excuse me. So you can select the specific one here. So therefore, obviously I picked the PAM module, which is not equipped on this truck. But what I was trying to get to is once you go to the PCM, you're going to notice that it also has the self-tests. Again, when I retrieve codes from those handheld ones, those auto parts special ones, those only actually show the continuous memory codes or just the generic codes because they're OBD2 compliant. So with that said, look what you can do here. I mean, just with a handheld, I can do the injector self-test. And other people call it the buzz test. I can actually run the Kion engine running glow plug test. Also the continuous memory codes, just the codes, along with the Kion engine off. So that's a big different one than what I'm used to, what I've seen with all the handhelds that I've been, given to. So if you've seen something different, James, I take it you've seen some other ones that are handheld that
I've got 5 of them.
yeah, he's got 5 of them. So therefore, that's what you're looking at there. So I've been always using my Scantles and my little auto parts special ones, but that's not bad at all. So the other thing is, you also have, again, let me mute the sound here, is you also have the, let me go to the next slide here. You also have scan data. So in this case, all of these newer ones, these little handheld ones are pretty good with the, oh, come on, slide. My slide's not moving. Let me move there. There you go. With your scan data. So in this case, you can view the scan data right there. And in this case, pick the appropriate scan data. Like I've been teaching 6 liters in the past, I talk about making sure that you select sync, the FICM sync. In other words, select the proper ones for diagnostic. And that's what I'm doing right here. And it's pretty impressive what you have there. And one of the classic ones I've seen many scan tools on the generic side not give you is desired and actual rail ICP pressure and rail pressure for the 6.4 that I played with. So in this case, you can watch your EGR position, and along with that, your engine oil temperature, your engine coolant temp, all available right there. So it's pretty damn good. So as I fast forward this, come on, go ahead and fast forward. You're going to see me do the selections here. So now we're going to look at live data right here. Come on. Hello. It's not forwarding on me. I hate it when PowerPoint doesn't want to do what I want it to do. I guess we're going to have to wait for it to do it on its own. But anyways, there you go. There's my live data right there. Come on, play it here. So in this case, you can view all those different, and then you can also change how you view it. You can go into a gauge form, a line graph form. I mean, you got a whole bunch of ways of looking at it. So pretty cool if you ask me. So I kind of like it very much. So word to the wise, I mean, oops, let me mute this. Hold on, let me mute that. So in this case, like I said, if you're looking for something to help you out, to do some generic testing, I kind of like this tool. I thought it was pretty good. So I'll be using it. Definitely. There's your desired and ICP pressure right there. So, and what I liked about it is actually it put the ICP sensor voltage because you need to make sure you're not in a default mode with a 6-liter. So there's your Fickham voltage, everything. So guys, for the price of these things that are out there, and James can tell you about more of them, but what you get, I think it's pretty good. All I got to do is take that little pod with me and take my phone with me, and I could do some generic viewing and look at a lot of proprietary data. So they help me diagnose. So pretty cool.
Well, what's the ballpark price tag on it, Tony?
On their website, it's $99.
Okay.
So I've seen it on Amazon slightly cheaper, but be aware there's 2 packages. There's a basic package and there's a pro. I'm using the pro that they gave us. So in this case, it works pretty good. But for the money, you know, and those do-it-yourselfers, like on my YouTube channel, I have a lot of people that follow me there. You know, I'm like, hey, this is better than a tuner because a tuner does not let you do the self-tests. So in this case, the self-tests are a very precious item to actually have. So there you go.
That. You just captured that screen for a movie.
I'm sorry?
You do a screen capture as a movie to capture all that.
I did a screen capture using my iPhone because my phone allows you to do that. So, and then it turns it into an MPEG file. If you have an iPhone, it could do it. So if you don't know, I'll tell you how to do it. But all I did was Googled it and I found out how to do it. So therefore, there you go. Oops. Sorry, I had a soundbite running at the same time. So therefore, yeah, guys, I mean, you got a lot going on here. Plus, you can change the format to a gauge or a line graph, if you can see right there. So I thought it was pretty cool. So you can mount it on your dash. You can go on a test drive, see if you're losing real pressure or if you're losing ICP pressure, whatever it might be. So that's pretty cool there, as you can see there. So I'm telling you, I'm pretty impressed with this. So especially with the way it views and how you can mount it there, it's all pretty cool. So definitely something to consider, especially those of you guys that do a lot of diags and don't want to be carrying around, or maybe you only have one scan tool to share them on 4 or 5 techs. That definitely works very well too as well. So, something to keep in mind. I kind of like it. So, and what do you think? Pretty cool. Any questions there? And by the way, I see a lot of my competitors teaching 6-liter again. We got a whole new wave. So please note, we do have a 6-liter class as well, because I've talked to some people on the phone and I visit a few shops, and you got this whole wave of 6-liter guys, even though, correct me if I'm wrong, but we still see a lot of 6-liters out there. So therefore, you want to know how to fix them right. So therefore, this is a very good tool as well. So again, there you go. James, what have you seen? A similar setups on the handhelds that you've gotten? So
yeah, this is one of the better ones that you got. The other ones just basically do OBD2 only. This one gets into the OBD2 side, plus it gets into the manufacturer side. So this is a better tool.
Oh yeah, so that's what.
And plus, the other day I was killing injectors on my particular vehicle, so that's good.
Somebody's got. Yeah, so therefore, guys, that's what we're trying to say. That's what you're looking at right there. So, all righty. What do you think, Lee? Something you would like to use there?
Hell yes.
The phone does work both ways.
What's that? Oh, he's talking on the phone. So, all right. So that concludes that about this scan tool. But again, please note, and in case you didn't catch what I was saying, now that I got the screen right here steady, we were talking about the ICP pressure signal voltage. And just a quick tip on 6-liters: when you pull the actual and desired, there's your actual pressure right there. Please note that you want to make sure you look at the sensor voltage to make sure you're not in a default, even on a crank no start. So therefore, always look at your ICP signal voltage, which is what I'm looking at right there. So definitely want to get a handle. That's what I've always preached about, looking at signal sensor voltages as you're looking at data. So
what are you going to teach your guys or teach everybody?
Makes sense? What do you think? Anybody have any comments? Yes, no? Comments are welcome. Participation.
Oh, no, that class we need share on there.
Let me mute James right
Tony,
there,
what was that name of this one here?
This is called the actually I have it right here. Here's our website right there. Top Scan, Top Guru, right there. There it is. That's from their website.
I'm on a
And
call
this
right
is their,
now.
and this is their, oops, sorry. Come on, computer. I don't know what he's doing. That's their website, Top Done. It's called the Top Scan
Well, I
method.
don't have it on the phone, but I got it. I'm listening to,
Sure.
he's doing a webinar.
There you go. Let me mute
Thanks,
James
Tony.
let me mute James for a minute. I muted James there for a second. So, all right, there you go. So in this case, we're trying to show you again another scan tool to help you out with data. But again, for the price, I think I'm pretty impressed. I was going to relay some information back to them. If they could put the power balance graph in it, that would make it an awesome tool. So that would be perfect. But because diagnose these vehicles, you got to have a power balance. Now on my 6.4, I got to try it out. I haven't had time to play with it, but in this case, I believe you can kill cylinders. Actually, this one too allows. I take that back. You can kill cylinders on this one too. So therefore, that's even nicer too. So as well. So I forgot to tell you that.
Will it show you fuel trims also, Tony, by chance?
Not
Maybe?
on these because 6-liter doesn't offer it, but on the
Okay.
6.4 it does give me the fuel trims. Yes.
Nice.
So as a matter of fact, on the previous list, I don't know if I have this right here. Yeah, let me go back one slide. Hold on. Come on, there you go. On the previous list, you actually can see the cumulative. I never can pronounce that word. Cumulative misfire list. So in this case, it
Cumulative.
does. Yeah, cumulative. I never can say it. Sorry, the Spanish gets in the way. But in this case, it does show you in the list that what's going on with the misfires, which is not nice to have. But then if you've been playing with these OB2 scan tools, you know that on a Ford, when you want to look at misfire data, you want to look at mode 6. So that
Right.
kind of helps. So therefore, yeah, it's going to show you that. But again, I go down this whole list on it. So I'm making a YouTube video on this, also on my YouTube channel showing this scan tool. So therefore, that's what I'm just, oops, damn. I don't know why that soundbite comes in there. But anyways, it's all there. So again, all the general data that I like to use is all shows up right there. So it works really good. So
It's pretty slick.
oh yeah, I mean, look at all that data you got right there. So we always got to compare oil temp with oil engine coolant temperatures. Make sure we're not exceeded the delta. Your battery voltage, your relay voltage, everything's all important to look at right there. So therefore, there you go. Okay. Okay, I like it. So there you go. So therefore, gentlemen, thought I'd share that with you. I think it's a great scan tool. So again, something to look at. So Dan, you mentioned you were going to teach 460 class again. How much does that run, Tony? A lot of money. No, I'm kidding. I'm actually gonna do a webinar on that. But if you look at my website and even on the advertisement I sent out this morning, that mass email, I actually am doing a diagnostic class, but I'm charging for that one, yes, because Tony's got to pay bills too. And in
Right.
this case, it's only $40. But all I'm saying, I'm going to talk about in-depth diagnostics, and in this case, that's going to encompass the 6-liter too. But I'll give you a freebie, Dan. Believe it or not, I have the Power Stroke 6-liter class in, what is it, 3 parts on the YouTube channel for free. So it's on Diesel Talk with Tony Sales if you haven't seen my YouTube channel. So I have the 6-liter stuff there. So therefore, there you go. Obviously, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth, but it has the good stuff there. So check it out. It's you can see that right there on the YouTube channel. So I did give the 6-liter, but I will be giving I'm going to put out a 6-liter webinar class that I'm probably going to charge a low fee, but because these hosting, in case you don't know, these hosting of these websites and hosting of this Zoom and all that costs money, So I spend about $600 a month just on hosting capabilities, and that doesn't include that I do all the updates and I do everything. I'm a one-man show, and I don't pay somebody to do that for me. So I become a little bit of a master web page guy. So there you go. There you go. So hopefully that helps you, Dan. Let me know if you want to see it. But if you got any questions, let me know too. My emails and my phone is always available to you. So therefore, definitely let me know. As a matter of fact, I am going to put my email for those of you that don't have it. And leave, if you want to share your info, you're welcome to. You don't have to. But in this case, you're welcome to. But that's my email, and there is my cell number. The best way to get hold of me is to actually leave me a text, because sometimes this phone, like right now as I've been speaking, this sucker's been going off I don't know, 5 times already in this meeting alone. So therefore, there's a few, you know, advertising calls, but all right. So therefore, there you go. There's my information right there, guys. So therefore, any questions, let me know. All right, and now we're going to open it. It says we have some time left here, and it's a 9:48 my time. We're doing pretty good. Any last other conversations? You're welcome. We'll open it up to chat. Take advantage since all of us are here, so you can actually listen to us, and therefore you're welcome to make any comments. So,
Hey, Matt, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Matt, I did my database search on the CCV maintenance interval on that crankcase vent, and nothing came up. So that's probably why people aren't taking care of it, because there's nothing printed anywhere saying, go look at the CCV. So there you go. All we can do is try and help the customer out and suggest an interval on it. But those guys that idle all the time, those are your candidates.
Exactly. Thanks.
Yep.
all right, so there you go. Common sense, guys. You know, to me, it's common sense, Lee. It's like, you know, you got some maintenance issues. You're gonna take a look at the blow by, see what it is.
Back.
What it is. Hi, Mr. Wilson. But in this case, very maintenance stuff that we gotta keep in mind. So, but again, look at the big picture of the engine, any diagnostics, because I believe I've said this before on my other drivability classes and my Lucas sponsor stuff. I've said, you know, if you have an engine drivability problem, always keep in mind, how did it affect the after treatment? So when it comes down to after treatment and dealing with all those issues, it's based on how well that engine is running. It has to be running great, period. So I know I'm repeating myself and I hate talking about the same thing over and over, but it keeps coming back. So it's like, you know, and it's aggravating because, for example, guys, I'm offering the Diesel Master course, right? And I get some guys calling, they're like, well, this and that, this and that. I even had a shop that was interested. And then they come back and tell me, well, we rather focus on, you know, other issues. And I'm like, well, you need to fix the trucks. It's like you need to learn how to fix these trucks. So, you know, you got to know how they work. So, but I can go on and on, but I'll shut up. But just keep that in mind. You got to look at the big picture. So, I mean, do you guys agree? Any comments? No comments? No comments? We're welcome. All right.
Tony, not to switch gears if you're not ready, but I did have a couple comments that I wanted to know if anyone's seeing. I got a phone call yesterday. The first customer that's complaining since they had the new Ram Cummins update from the dealer. They told me that they feel like they've lost somewhere close to 5 or 6 miles a gallon and are increasing in DEF fluid since they had their Ram Cummins back to the dealership, a 16 model. So
is this the one that falls under the recall? Is this the one that falls under the recall? Oh, I'm not surprised. I mentioned it a while back, one of the Lucas webinars. What's going to happen with this update flash? Oh, I am not surprised. So that's why a lot of guys don't want to get her done. They don't want to reflash it. So,
you know, that my customer was saying yesterday, said, if anybody ask you about it, said, tell them do not get it done. So I thought I'd just throw that out there. One other thing I was thinking about too, this thing of oil consumption and talking about the LM2, the LZO engine, and could relate to other ones as well. What about oil viscosity having a factor here too? Because, you know, on those they're down to, I think, what is a 0W20 Dexos oil. Is that also a factor maybe in consumption, which then is going to lead to more issues in the after treatment system? I know why they're doing it in terms of trying to get better efficiency, but nonetheless.
Anybody like to answer?
Yes.
Anybody? The oil consumption. Anybody? I'm not going to answer because I'm always answering. So, Lee, you want to add your 10 cents worth? I know you got something.
Right. Why does my wife's car use 520 and my EcoBoost uses 530? somebody did some engineering, whatever, but I have no idea, Tony, because the runnier the oil, the less friction you have, but then the more wear that you have because the guy doesn't change it anyway. Man, you just almost got to beat your head against the wall trying to figure out what these guys are doing.
There you go. What is your thoughts on it, Matthew?
Well, I mean,
you presented
I
that.
understand they're trying to get creep up that fuel efficiency number. I think that's probably one of the things they're after with it, even if it's very, very incremental over the, all the vehicle population they're selling. But yet, on the other hand, the trade-off is what we're seeing with this other stuff as well. So, yeah, it's a love-hate situation, if you will.
Yep.
I know I have a customer that not engine related, but he had around a 2000 model International medium duty truck that had the Spicer 6+1 transmission in it, and he kept going through trannies in about 100,000 miles with the transmission fluid that they were recommending. And after it became his turn to change it or to pay for the transmission, he said, "I'm done with this." He said, well, "I'm putting the oil in that I want to," which was a heavier grade oil, and all his transmission problems went away. Now, with this emission thing, I don't know if we can just make that decision there, but my point being is that this lowering viscosity sometimes really does have that that trade-off problem.
Mm-hmm.
Create more emissions too.
Yeah, definitely so. I don't know what to tell you there. So, but it's unfortunate. So, all righty. Any other things you wanted to talk about, Mr. Matthew? I wish I gave you a better response, but can't. Sorry. But all right. Any others? Any other information there? Please note that as if you have any comments or questions, you got drivability problems, the Diesel TG website is still up and running. I didn't realize it was down for 3 hours the other day, and GoDaddy they're the host company. They're having issues on the Diesel TG. So if you're still posting on Diesel TG, I hardly go on it because I have the guys doing it. I see there's a few postings up there, so that tells me it's got activity. So definitely post your problems there. But next month, we're going to be doing Roundtable again. I'm going to be doing it in early March. So therefore, we'll talk more technical and some more hands-on stuff. We will be talking about some of the newer stuff that's available for the for diagnostic testing that we're taking from the guys over at gasoline department, such as Mr. Wilson's arena. So in this case, we'll talk about some of that stuff too when you do heavy duty or basic diagnostics there. So some more elaborate testing of what's available. So please look at your latest scan tools that are out there. Look what they offer. I mean, I was looking at an Autel, and in this case, the Autel, all the capabilities it has from charging systems to battery to your its scope functions and sensor functions and scan data and all the bidirectionals. But the thing is, a scan tool is only as good as the user that's using it, because that user don't know much what he's looking at or doesn't know how to take advantage of all the features. Because I've been to many shops where they open the box and the box is all still brand new and they have the tool for a year already. And it's like, really? You haven't used it? Well, I haven't had no training on it. Well, you got to start playing with it. So, yeah, because a lot of guys, it's sad because a lot of guys just use their high dollar scan tools just for retrieving codes and looking at some data or kill cylinders, and that's it. There's so much capability. So we'll be focusing on that, on understanding scan data there too as well. So electrical is something we're continuing to push. So again, hopefully you'll take interest in some getting some electrical training as well. And we already have talked about on the Lucas sponsored webinars. I've talked about the use of the in other words, how do you look at data and all that stuff. So I don't want to go into too much in depth, but definitely want to play with those. So I'm glad you love scopes, Mr. Thomas. So therefore, that's good to see you there on the chat. Definitely got to take advantage of that, and maybe we'll have other presentations coming up on what's available to see there. But it is sad though that as I talk about drivability and diagnostics and training, that if I ask a guy, listen, you're testing an LLY Duramax, for example, and you're doing a crank no start, right? You're supposed to do the suction test, because when you diagnose a common rail, you start off at the low pressure, then the high pressure, then the return. And in this case, it's sad that I will watch a guy diagnose a Duramax, LLY, for example, or LB7 or LMM2 for all that, for its worth. And in this case, you know, they don't know all the tests you're supposed to do. For example, when you go ahead and do a total suction test, what you're supposed to do is pinch the line between the filter and the injection pump. And what you're going to do is you're going to pump it up to 10 PSI and watch the rate of decay on the gauge. So if you don't do that, you're not going to know that your cascade valve has a problem or it doesn't have the problem on the injection CP3 pump itself. So therefore, you know, that's why I get a little aggravated, because of the fact that some guys think they know, but they don't know. But then when I go to a live shop and I've seen the repairs or the challenges in repair, they have no clue. So, and you want to talk about more advanced stuff if you have the basic stuff, because let's face it, Common Rail came out on a light duty truck in 2001, right? So in this case, what year are we in? And if you still don't know Common Rail, I'm sorry, you need to get up to speed there. So you need to know Common Rail, know very well Common Rail, the purpose of a volume control valve, pressure control valve, and so on. So that's why we offer the training that we do, or other people. If you don't train with me, that's fine, train with other people. But what I'm trying to say is you need to get up to date on that training. So there you go. Mr. Lee, Mr. James, any last words, any last topics, any last discussions? It's just about the 1 hour mark. Anything
Nope.
you'd like to add?
Oh, Tim Petty said hello.
Oh, hi, Tim Penny. So, Mr. Lee, any last minute comments as an instructor? Anything you'd like to give out there to these guys as advice? Oh, you lost your microphone. We can't hear you, Lee. His sound went bye-bye. There you go.
Tony, I appreciate you hosting this. It's always good information from all around the country. I love it. Try to make it every time. Good stuff.
Okay, well, Mr. Wilson, great to see you pick your lovely mug again. I thank you all, and those of you watching the recording, remember we will have another roundtable. Keep going to the Powertrain Training website to see on the next date in March. I'll post it up probably here by tomorrow, and get another one set up so guys can sign up for that. Hopefully we get more. We are thinking about, or I'm thinking about doing an evening roundtable for those that can't make it during the day for some odd reason. So therefore we may do an evening shot, see how that works out. So let's see how it goes. So with that, God bless. I'll see you guys later. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Lee, I appreciate your participation and help. Everybody, I appreciate you. You all take care and have a good day. With that, I'm signing off. Well, I'll see you later. Let me stop the recording first. Thank you.